Good afternoon and welcome back. My name is Jim Kirkbride, and today we're going to be continuing our discussion about basic Java syntax. And the topic for this short little video is going to be arithmetic operations. So what I've done is I have another little project that I threw together, and what this project has is one class, and I called it arithmetic operators because there's no real, that's really all this is about. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use this as kind of a test bed to walk through the mathematical operations that you can perform in Java. So as you can see, I've declared a variable here. Actually, I've initialized a variable, and I've got some operations that I'm performing, some math operations that I'm performing. And so what we've got is 5 plus 3 times 6, and then we print that out. Okay, so you might be wondering what we get when we run this, and it's very much dependent upon the order of operations that we perform here. So let's run it and see what we get. So you might be thinking that, well, 5 plus 3 is 8. Times 6 is 48. Let's see what happens when we run this. So I'm going to compile it. I'm going to run it. You'll notice we got 23. Okay. Well, obviously that's because what it did was 3 times 6 is 18 plus 5 gives us 23. So why did it do that? Well, that's because in Java, multiplication and division have a higher order of precedence than addition and subtraction. Now, if we want to, we could force this to do exactly what we want. So if we want this to actually be 5 plus 3, take the result of that, multiply by 6, we could wrap that piece of the equation in parentheses, which means evaluate this part first and then do the rest of it. So then let's go ahead and run that and see what we get. Okay, very obviously, we got a different result. So we got 48 that time. That's because it was 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 times 6 gives us 48. So then you might wonder, well, what happens if I also wrap this in parentheses? Well, we execute in left to right at that point because parentheses have the same precedence in terms of order of operations. So again, we should get 48 when we execute. And we do. So this is just kind of an indicator that when you think about mathematics in Java, just like in normal math, you have to think about the order of operations. The nice thing is that, again, just very similar to mathematics, if you use parens, then you can force which part of the equation you want to execute first. So we have other operators, obviously. So if I take, let's go ahead and put 5 plus 3 back in. So, okay, so that gives us 48, right? So we can run that. Yep, 48. So then if we want to do additional math, what we could also do is, let's say, value equals value minus 1. Whoops. Okay, so we should get 47. And we do. We could also do divide by 8, right? That should give us 6. Okay, so that works out well. And these are probably like fairly standard. You're probably going, yeah, this is great. This is just math. Well, there's probably a little bit more math that most people are maybe aware of peripherally, but they don't use every day. So if I wanted to, we could take the modulus of that value, which is the remainder of a division operation. Let's say we're going to mod 5 on that. Okay. So if you take 48 and you divide by 5, that gives you a remainder of 3. All right, so that's what modulus does. And then another couple of operators that are going to be very important are the increment and decrement operators. So again, we say that that's 48. So if I want to increment that value by 1, then what I can do is value plus plus and then execute that. Okay, that gives us 49. On the other hand, if I want to step it down, then I could do value minus minus, right? And that gives us 47. So that is the short version of the arithmetic operators. And you know, you can get actually way more complicated in terms of like coming up with the equation to figure out like play around with the order of operations if you wanted to. So you could say 5 plus that, and then let's wrap that whole thing. So this says evaluate this part first, then evaluate this, then evaluate the whole thing, right? Okay, and so obviously we can get a result out of that. And then let's say also that we want to divide by 2. Now we got to be careful here, because if we divide by something and we get a fractional value, that may not give us the integer that we think we're going to get. So how is this going to work? Well, we're going to add that first, right? Then we're going to divide by 2. Then we're going to add. And then we're going to multiply by 6. Okay? So let's run it. Right, so 54.0. So what did we do? So we had 8, and so we take 8 and we divide by 2. That gives us 4. 4 plus 5 there gives us 9. And so then 9 times 6 is going to give us 54. So that was some of the arithmetic operators, and really you just need to be aware of them and just know how to use them. Probably a couple other things that are worth pointing out. There is a math package, and the math package will give you a number of utilities that a lot of this should look very familiar. So if you need an absolute value, you can get an absolute value. So if we say, let's see, -1, let's assign that, and equals that, and then we can spit that out, right? So let's do absent, and then go ahead and execute that. So we should get 1 from that. Yep, so we do. So the math package actually has a lot in there, so I'm not going to go through their method by method, but there's lots of things you can do, and it's definitely something you should be aware of. So that's pretty much it. That's really all we're going over today, and that's the arithmetic operators. So thanks a lot.